Welcome to The Blind. It is season 2, episode 16. We have got our very own from DU Arkansas, the State Feather Society chairman, Scott Morgan, with us. We're going to talk all about Ducks Unlimited and what they do here in the great state of Arkansas. But first, let's hit that intro and let's start episode 16 right here on The Blind. Welcome to The Blind. It is season 2, episode 16. And before we get started tonight, we want to give you a big, jolly Merry Christmas from Garrett and I here on The Blind. This will be our Christmas episode. We will take a break until a week after Christmas, and then we'll be back with you for episode 17. So Merry Christmas from our family to yours. And
Brian was
tonight,
singing to us earlier. I think he said he was going to sing us a little jingle here at the end at some point.
I may sing us out.
Okay.
But not. We'll save it to the end of the show for the big climax there. But
Make sure I get off before that happens.
That's right. Well, our special guest tonight is Arkansas's own State Feather Society chairman, Mr. Scott Morgan. Scott, we appreciate you being with us tonight.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Good to have you, Scott.
And so, Scott, for the people that don't know who you are, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do for Ducks Unlimited.
I've been in Arkansas since summer of 2000. I joined Ducks Unlimited here in Arkansas in 2004, so I'm coming up on my 20th year. I started out as a volunteer down in Fordyce at the Morrill Creek chapter, and when I moved to Sheridan in 2014, Bob Butler is our former regional senior regional director, and he asked me to take over the Grant County chapter. So at one time, I was over 2 chapters at once, and I've kind of resurrected the Grant County chapter with Eddie and Jeff Hicks here in Grant County, and we have an annual about 500 people come to our banquet. So it's a pretty strong banquet for fundraising for waterfowl conservation. And then I've become a zone chairman. And then our new state chairman, Larry Winningham out of Searcy, asked me to be the Feather Society chairman. Last 2 years, I was on the life sponsor board and raising money for, big donations.
Well, let's start off with kind of where you began with DU as kind of the. Did you say are you the president of the chapter, or what is actually the title there when you're over a chapter? The chairman of a chapter. So, let's talk a little bit about that. As the chairman, you're kind of over the chapter there, and you guys put on the banquets there in the county. Let's talk about the banquets and what those are used for with DU.
Okay, as a chapter chairman, you try to get as many volunteers as you can to help do fundraising for. Most chapters have at least one event a year. Some have 2. They have a membership drive and then a sponsor banquet. But you try to get as many volunteers as you can, because for every volunteer that you have can bring in up to $4,000 to $5,000.
Yeah,
because they bring friends and family in also.
Right.
So as a chairman, you kind of do everything from the ground up. You book the venue, you set up the catering, you take care of the beverages, you order all the package from DU, find you a gun dealer, etc. And you get on. Of course, now online is spectacular because you can sell tickets online, but we still do it the old school way. We sell sponsor tables, and
Yeah.
you try to get as much stuff underwritten and raise as much money as you can before the banquet. That's what makes
Right.
you a success.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about money per person, having volunteers in, you're meaning, which I know what you mean, but for our listeners, you're meaning that the more volunteers you get, the more people that they're going to sell tickets to that are going to come and spend money at the banquets, so that y'all can raise as much money as you can for DU.
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm asking for myself, what does a volunteer do?
Well, yeah, what does that all entail? Because I've been asked a lot of times to be a volunteer, and I'm volunteered out. So
Yeah,
I'm
what
just
do you
like,
do? What do you
look,
do as a volunteer?
hey, I'll buy a table, but I don't want to volunteer, and I probably should.
There is many levels of volunteers. Some, sell tickets to the events. Some will help sell corporate tables or get sponsors. Some will show up the evening before and help set up the tables, and put out the merchandise. It's time consuming for me. Like down in Fordyce, Morrill Creek, there's 170 people. It's a little smaller size, but there's about 15 to 20 volunteers there. Grant County, we have about 40. That includes the women. The women have their own committee, and they do about the same thing. But for me personally, you need, guys that can do different tasks. Some I call worker bees, and they show up and they help put guns together and take guns down, and help people find their tables and pass out drinks and do all kinds of stuff. I mean, you need all different types of volunteers.
Yeah.
We appreciate every one of them. That's what makes us successful.
Yeah. And so let's talk before we before we get off into some other stuff. Let's talk about the banquets and the raising money. Of course, it's a great time. I've been going to them since I was a little kid. My uncle and my dad were both chairman of chapter down in Lafayette County back in the 90s and early 2000s down there. And I remember going to them growing up, and they were a really big deal. But, it's not all about just a fun night to go and hang out and maybe eat a good meal and have some beverages. The money is for a good cause. So let's talk about the money that's raised in these chapters. How much of it stays with the local chapter? Where does it go from there?
Well, your local chapter doesn't get to keep a lot of the funding.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to corporate, which is in Memphis.
Right.
And I would say, I think it's around, don't quote me here, I think it's around maybe 8%
Mm-hmm.
of the national money goes to administration, which is very low compared to what we raise.
Yeah.
The rest of it goes to conservation for the wetlands and, to preserve the breeding grounds up north. And, some of it is donated to the WMAs here in Arkansas for public hunting.
Mm-hmm.
But corporate in Memphis, most of the money gets to go there. Most of the chapters that are successful get to have like an after dinner, that the chapter can pay for. But the majority of the money goes back to corporate.
Right. And then from corporate, it's dispersed where they see needed.
Yes, they have a board that decides, where it's needed most. But here in Arkansas, we're getting quite a bit of that money the last several years for these WMA projects to restore, the Green Tree reservoirs, to restore that. So we were very thankful for that because, of course, as everyone knows, that's a big moneymaker for, thousands and thousands of hunters come here to hunt every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and while you hit on that, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we came on the air live, you were telling us a little bit about that. There's a lot going on in the state of Arkansas right now, and it's kind of, I guess, for lack of better terms, it's pretty controversial because you've got a lot of people on each side, and so I know you know more about it than what we do. So tell us a little bit about what you know about it and what's going on with DU and the Game and Fish here in Arkansas.
Well, Brian and Garrett, I'm going to touch on the top edge of it. In the future, I'd really like you guys to have Corey Dunn or even Jacob Spears. He's our biologist here in Arkansas for Ducks Unlimited. They could give you a much more detailed, biological answer, but I can give you some of the facts that's going on.
I think Corey watches the show or listens sometimes because we're friends on Facebook, and I see him. He
Yeah.
likes our stuff, or whatnot. So if he's listening, big shout out. We appreciate you. But if he's not, we'll have to send this to him. But
Yeah,
we'd love to
Corey
have
does-
him on.
Yes,
Yeah,
Corey
we
does a lot for Ducks Unlimited. We actually were lucky to hire him away from the Wildlife Turkey Federation several years ago. So, but yeah, there is a lot of controversy about taking these wildlife management areas, taking out the trees, and you have a lot of trees that are dying from water being on them for too long.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the theory is, from what I've heard, is the water gets inside the trees, has nowhere to go. It sits on the forever, and they kind of they rot from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're probably a few years behind the pace where we should be, but they've made a lot of progress the last 2 years. I have some notes here, so I'm gonna look down and read some of these notes.
Yeah,
Actually from
go right
Corey-
ahead.
Actually, from Corey, the Black River WMA, the Green Tree Reservoirs in Phase 2 design and permitting, they're 30% complete. So they're getting their headway there. Hurricane Creek, the North Unit, is under construction.
Mm-hmm.
The Bayou de View, Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 is under contract. Hopefully, we'll get started spring, summer of 24. Biomeda is the big one everybody knows about. Phase 1 has been surveyed. They're working on a survey as required. Phase 1B is the modeling is underway. So they're removing the trees in one area already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are we talking about they're removing the damaged trees?
Yes, they're removing the damaged trees that can't survive any longer.
Right.
They can't be resurrected.
So-
they're damaged.
And we were talking a little bit earlier, like we said a minute ago, but we're not talking about just having water on the trees for too long of a time in 1 year. We're talking about damage that has happened over decades.
30, 40 years. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we're not
It's
just
not
talking
one- it's
about,
not one
hey, we
season.
got to get it off this season and that will fix the
Right.
problem. There's damage that is going to have to be fixed or going to lose it all. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah, this is a long-term situation. It didn't happen last year, the year before. You're correct, but you can't.
And the projects, is that putting in water control structures and things in place to where you can get the water on and off faster?
Yes, it is. They do from my knowledge, they put the water structures in first before they start taking the timber out,
Mm-hmm.
so that when they replant, it's already there in place.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think that's the biggest controversy, of course, because everybody is worried about now. And,
Right.
and,
Right.
and, it's, I may not be saying this right, but I know a lot of people are worried about it messing up the hunting for now, where the Arkansas Game and Fish and DU are more worried about 30 years down the road, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years down the road. And people, for lack of better terms, are pissed off about right now.
Well, they
Is that-
basically look at too. They basically say, we've got a limited resource and we already are overcrowded. If we decrease that resource in the immediate, it's already overcrowded. Now you're giving us fewer acres to hunt immediately. But like you said,
Yeah.
this is something that Brian and I talk about on the show all the time, is preserving what we have for the future hunter for our kids. I've got 2 small boys. Brian's got 1. And I mean, everything we do, we want to try to preserve and give them the same opportunities that we've had.
And before we get too far into this controversial subject, let me just say, Garrett and I do not hunt any of those WMAs that you mentioned.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
we
true.
we here on the blind, and Garrett and I personally are as neutral as you can be on this subject, because we have no, I mean, we don't hunt it, we don't
It
go
doesn't
to
affect
it.
us either way.
Right, but we want it to still be there 100 years from now. So we
Correct.
do care about it. But as far as us leaning one way or another on this controversy or whatever's going on, we don't have an opinion. So I just want to say that for all of our listeners, because we will get hate mail. My phone will start getting text messages in any time now. But I just wanted to put that out there for all of our listeners. But Scott, back to what you were saying. I know you've got a lot of information on this subject.
Well, you guys are correct. We've got to worry about the future for y'all's children, my children or grandchildren, the future. That's what it's all about. That's why we want to get these young people involved so they learn the education that we know about conservation.
Yeah. And well, what they're doing right now with changing the water structures or adding or taking out or what all is being done and the cutting of the trees, is that going to affect the duck hunting in the near future in a negative way? Do you know the answer to that, or are you able to say that? Or are we going to have to take a lick before we can make things better?
Brian, I don't know 100% correct on that answer, but I think they're doing it at a pace. They're not going to go in there and like take out, like half a biometa, which, would really crush the public hunting. I think they're doing it in stages to where we're minimizing what they're taking away.
Right.
But, certain people I've read online about Dave Donaldson, they said, well, they cut my area and they took away my hunting spot. Well, it's temporary. It's not going to be forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know people are unhappy about the situation like right now, but we've got to worry about the future.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you're not out there doing this. You're speaking on behalf of just knowledge you have for DU and the Arkansas Game and Fish. Let's touch on that just a little bit, because I don't know if we did real well in the beginning, but DU is involved in this with the Arkansas Game and Fish, correct?
Correct. You are correct. Yes.
And I mean, just for Garrett and I and for our listeners, I mean, what involvement do they have? Can you get into detail about that and or what exactly they're doing? Is it funding?
Well,
Are they actually a part of it, or what?
DU does the funding. To help funding. Of course, I think some of the biologists for DU help out. It's a game and fish project. The game and fish,
right.
They lead these projects.
Mm-hmm.
DU is a financial support system.
Yeah. Well, I know that the state of Arkansas is fortunate to have DU to help out with things like this, whether people agree with it or not. Arkansas is fortunate that DU can help out in these areas when needed. So, but you got some more stuff from Corey?
Yeah, Corey had mentioned that the Game and Fish just announced there's a new conservation incentive program. DU will be instrumental in delivering the rice and moist soil habit components for a program on private land, and applications will start in January. So the Game and Fish, in conjunction with DU's, funding, they do also help private land too, with conservation.
And do you know what that program is going to look like, or not until it comes out?
I don't know. Corey would know off the top of his head, but I think when it launches in January, I think it'll be public knowledge.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, look, you got anything else to add on the Green Tree reservoirs and the WMAs? Anything on there?
All I can say is, to have the hunters to have patience.
Yeah.
Moving forward, because I think it's going to be a great thing in the future.
Yeah. I've got a quick question. You may or may not have the answer to this, but it seems like over the last 5 to 10 years, whether it be public WMAs, Green Tree reservoirs, or private, this issue of the water and leaving it on the trees too long has become more of a topic, something that I never really used to hear anything about. And now it seems like I said, I know several private landowners that have flooded timber, and they've gotten on that bandwagon of we need to flood in stages and we need to get the water off quicker. And is that something new that's become a new topic because we've learned that it's damaging the trees? Or, I mean, I guess the other thing is, how long have we been flooding timber? I mean, how old is biometa? Do you know?
I think they constructed it in the 40s.
Okay, so we're talking about almost 80 years.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's like new knowledge or that's come along of that it's damaging trees, and so it's become a topic, or what led to this whole conversation.
I think that they've been doing research for quite a while, but the last 5 years, it has really come to light of, hey, we've got to take care of this. Of course, everybody wants water on the trees to hunt.
Right.
Everybody's in agreement of that. But some years when you have massive amounts of water, you have to have structures you can get it off because you will damage the trees, just like your
Especially in the
lawn.
spring, huh? You're
Yep,
trying to get
especially
the
the
water
spring and
off,
summer.
and it's pouring in faster than you can get it off, and you end up with the water on the trees for another month longer than you planned on.
Correct. On my property, we're on the Cache River. We have a 44-acre tract that I'm putting in a controlled water structure next year to keep the water because I've had some trees dying on my property. And some
Mm.
of these trees are, 100 to 150 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They don't live forever, but a tree 50, 60, 70 years old can survive.
Right.
But when you do the damage, you can't unring that bell.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, there's a lot of stuff to unfold there, and I know we could get down a rabbit hole, and I'm not sure that we want to because I don't have the knowledge to fight for one side or the other. I just know that there's a lot of people out there that are smarter than us, and or at least speaking for me personally. And if they say that it's doing damage, then I guess I have to trust that because I'm not a biologist by any means, and but. I guess if that's what they're saying we have to do for the future of our public land duck hunting here in Arkansas, then I guess it's been spoken and now it's going to happen. So more power to them. And if that's, what's going on, then of course I'm all for it. Doing what's best for our ducks and our woods.
I agree.
Well, look, let's take a short commercial break here. And when we come back, we're going to have more with Scott, and we're going to talk about the Feather Society because it was something new to me.
I've been wondering the whole time what the Feather Society is.
I've known about DU my whole life, and I don't know how long this has been around. It may have been around from the very beginning, but we're going to find out all about it when we come back after this commercial break. Scott Morgan is going to tell us all about the State Feather Society. So we'll take a short break. We'll be right back with more right here on The Blind. Welcome back to episode 16. It is season 2 right here on The Blind. We appreciate you for tuning in. And if you are, make sure you go over and check out all of our wonderful sponsors. You can see them on the bottom of your screen if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Or if you're listening to the podcast, you can catch them on our intro, all of their commercials, and all over all of our social media. So we appreciate all of our sponsors here on The Blind, and each and every week we come to you live right here on Facebook from the Lyle Real Estate Studio, your land investment experts. So make sure you give Gardner Lyle and his crew over there, I guess we should say Gar because he's really the boss, but give them a call over there at Lyle Real Estate. We appreciate those guys and all that they do. Check out, man, they've got some really good properties right now for sale. So
They always have good properties. I don't think I've ever gotten on there and not seen something that I would dream of having.
Yeah. So we need to show some love to those guys for sure because they got some really good stuff going on. So, but look back to Scott Morgan. He is the Arkansas State Feather Society chairman, and let's dive off into that. Scott, tell us what the Feather Society is.
Well, the Feather Society is kind of one step above a life sponsor. Life sponsor. Tell us the life sponsor first. Once people become, coming to banquets and sponsoring and, getting tables and getting involved, we're approaching about becoming a live sponsor, and it's a $10,000 commitment for 4 years. So it's $2,500 a year, and it's tax deductible. And if you complete that, you get a pin, or your wife gets a pendant and a plaque, and then we try to get you to go to the next stage, to the 20,000. So you donate 10,000 more. And we approach people usually when they're after their 10,000 to become, if they want to get into the Feather Society. The Feather Society is where you can get in 2 ways. And of course, we try to raise as much money as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Minimum is $10,000, but you can donate 2 ways to be in the Feather Society. You can have an insurance policy to where when you pass, let's say you have $100,000 and you want to give 50,000 to your family, and you will give 50,000 to Ducks Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey's actually over that. They do all the paperwork, and you become a Feather Society member. Or if you have you have your own trust in your family, you can leave money donated to DU that way. So there's 2 ways that you can join the Feather Society. Most people start at 50,000. Some give 100,000. We've had some of the past, give $1 million. They'll take out a $2 million policy and give $1 million to DU and $1 million to their family. So it's a future donation. It's not an immediate like a life sponsor.
Right. So do you have to be a life sponsor first before you can move to the Feather Society? Or if tomorrow Garrett wants to take out a $500,000 life policy and put DU as the beneficiary, does he all of a sudden get in the Feather Society?
He can get in that way.
I'm going to put my feather in my hat if I do that.
For $500,000, they better give you a feather.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about that. What do you? I mean, you talked about the plaque and the things that you get. I mean, do you do anything throughout the year for the Feather Society members and stuff? Or is there any dinner or any kind of things that you do?
Well, the second night of our state convention, we have a reception just for our major donors and our Feather Society people.
Now the medallion or the pin or whatnot that I've seen. How big is that thing? Because it looks pretty big from what I've seen. Maybe the pictures are just blown up.
It's about the size of a $50.
Okay, so it's bigger. Yeah, it just gets a good little size. So Garrett, you could put that on and people would see you everywhere. Mm-hmm. Now, for the people that are out there that are skeptical when they hear this, right? Give money, give money, give money. I mean, this is an investment you're making, saying, I care about duck hunting, and I want to make sure that I can give, even if it's a life policy after I'm gone, I can give this later in life when something happens to me. But it's an investment for the betterment and the longevity of duck hunting.
Well, that's true, Brian, but it's not just about the duck hunting. The money goes for conservation of the wetlands, which helps the ecosystem, where is good for the breeding grounds for the ducks, but it's all other kinds of wildlife too.
You mentioned that earlier when we were talking.
Some of the areas up in Canada, have great fishing and other wildlife, in these areas. So that's where it's kind of, people, they'll think I'm just giving it for the ducks. Well, you're not just giving it for the ducks. We have some people that made large donations because it's for conservation of the land. No, it's not just about waterfowl.
So if I go out tomorrow, which I'm an insurance salesman, so if I want to go write a life insurance policy tomorrow, and I want to be in the Feather Society,
you're trying to find an angle now, aren't you? He's trying to find a business angle.
No, I want to be in the Feather Society. It's going to do me no good. I'm going to pay for it, but I want to leave a nice life insurance policy for DU. But I want it to be for the ducks. Is there a way that I can say my money is designated here?
You can restrict your money, Brian, on the life sponsor and the Feather Society sponsor. You can decide, hey, I want this money to stay in Arkansas and go to the GTR, the Green Tree Reservoir projects.
Right.
You can restrict it, which is, a good thing for here in Arkansas, because like you guys live in Arkansas, you'd want your money to stay right here in Arkansas.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So when you sign those, those documents for your trust or your life insurance, then
Yeah.
you can decide where you want that to go. If you want it to go to Saskatchewan, it can go there. If you want it to go up to the northern Midwest, to those wetlands and breeding grounds, it can go there. Or if you want it to go to Mexico, it can go to Mexico too. Mexico's got a program also that they've started the last several years.
Well, and you deal with this a lot more than Garrett and I, but we've always heard, and I know you've heard it as well, is whichever organization it is, let's use DU as an example. Well, I'm not paying them any money. I'm not giving them any money because everything just goes somewhere else. It goes to Canada, it goes here, it goes there. It's what are they doing for Arkansas? You hear that all the time. I'm sure you do. I mean, I hear it all the time. But this is a good way where you can say, I want my money to stay in Arkansas, and you can designate it for that. But let's hit on that a little bit. It seems so narrow-minded when you think of, well, DU's not doing anything for Arkansas, saying these people, they say that. What they're doing up north and stuff is helping Arkansas by helping the breeding grounds and the things like that for ducks, because if we don't have that up north, then we don't get any ducks down south. So,
correct.
I think that there's kind of that misconception of, well, they do so much up north. Well, I mean, that's where our ducks are hatched. I mean, that's
correct.
If we don't hatch ducks, we don't get them in Arkansas. So
that's correct.
It's not like we're breeding our own ducks down here in Arkansas that are staying around all year.
Right.
I wish we were.
We do count on that migration from Canada and the northern Midwest, or, up in Washington, Montana and those areas. You do count on that. One thing I want to touch on real quick, Dr. Doug Osborne down in University of Arkansas Monticello has a great program that DU helps fund also. And every February, he has a youth camp over at George Dunklin's place, and they ban ducks, and he puts transmitters on ducks to check on the migration of where they're going, and where they're feeding, and what, how long they're staying there. So there's a lot of stuff done in Arkansas that does help gives us knowledge about our research. But you are correct. The habitat, conserving the habitat for the breeding grounds, so we do have more ducks today, tomorrow, 10 and 20 years from now for the future.
Yeah. And, well, look, let's switch gears just a little bit. You said you hunt up around the Cache River, and let's talk about your duck season a little bit. How's everything going?
It is pretty poor.
I'm glad to know it's not just us.
The reason we're laughing is because we feel your pain.
We know.
Now the speck hunting is spectacular.
Yeah.
But the duck hunting is pretty slow.
That seemed to be a common theme throughout the whole state. I mean, everybody we talked to has got the same story. So everybody's in the same boat together in Arkansas, it sounds like.
You're right, Garrett. I've reached out. I'm trying to gather some information because I'm 58 and I've been here 23 years, but I've never seen this many geese in my entire life this early. Usually your geese are behind your ducks. And every year it seems like there's more geese early and more geese early. And I don't understand. I would figure those, always come in last, but some pattern has changed here. But, we did have a warm front before duck season opened, and we've not had any cold pushes. I think the last 2 mornings has been below freezing, a couple degrees, which may help. But we do need some good Arctic pushes to get some ducks in.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just praying that maybe for Christmas we get cold weather. I mean, it's not going to happen on Christmas, but I'm just hoping that somebody asked for cold weather, and maybe we get it.
Well, maybe the good Lord will help us out, because I don't think Santa's going to bring it.
That's right. We better just keep on praying. But,
right.
And we're down here in southwest Arkansas, and we love this little corner of the state, but, we don't get geese down here anymore. We
hardly, very few.
When I was growing up, I saw lots of snow geese, specks, things like that. It's very, very few now.
Yeah, well, we are not a short supply of either. It is, it's phenomenal how many. I drive from Altimer up to Clarendon, and if not every field, but every other field has snows and specks. Sometimes just a couple hundred, sometimes a couple thousand
Yeah.
every weekend.
So you're hogging them up in your corner of the state.
Well, if you want to say that, yeah, but I'd rather get rid of a few and have some ducks come in.
I know that's,
That's
right.
right.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, Scott, man, we appreciate you for being with us tonight. Lots of good information on DU, on what's going on here in Arkansas, and about the programs that Ducks Unlimited offers for people to be involved, whether it's in your local chapter or as a lifetime member or as a part of the Feather Society. But before we let you go, if someone's interested in being a lifetime member or part of the Feather Society, how do they go about doing that, and where can they find more information?
You can go to www.ducks.org and click on Arkansas, and it will have all the staff for Arkansas on there, and you can look for Corey Dunn, Pat Mahan, or myself, and our email and phone numbers on there. You can contact us, and we'd be glad to. Corey goes and sits and talks to people, face to face. Sometimes we have small little, we call it nights of conservation, and he'll come and bring a video, and we talk to people, and we kind of open the door about these types of sponsorships.
Yeah. Well, I think that y'all have got some really good things going on, and I'm going to see if I can talk Garrett into buying a life insurance policy, and see if I can get.
I've already got plenty of life insurance from you.
See if I could get it.
If you had the market cornered on these, I'm sure I'd have 3 more.
I may have to add that to my brochure stack at the office. So I may have to try to get some information from DU and see if I can sell a few life insurance policies with DU as a beneficiary. So
actually, Brian, we've worked with a couple of State Farm agents in the Little Rock area, and we have done a few that way. So you may mention that to, I think Greg Knowles is y'all's chairman over there in Texarkana.
Yeah.
You may want to partner with him and come to a meeting or come to an event, and you can get some things underwritten like that, and for your company, for shelter.
Well, you heard it here, folks. If you're looking for life insurance in the state of Arkansas. But no, on a serious note, Scott, we appreciate you, because if people don't know, I mean, you are a volunteer, and you do this because you believe in it, and and believe in Ducks Unlimited and things like that. And so, just from us to you, we appreciate you for your time and what you do for not only the ducks, but for all of the conservation, and it all goes hand in hand. But we appreciate you for giving your time and your efforts for what you do for DU.
I appreciate you guys. If you guys would give me just a second, I'd like to thank a couple of people that are
absolutely
involved with DU here. Our state chairman is Larry Winningham out of Searcy. He has done a phenomenal job. He took the reins in July. Our former state chairman is, we call him Mongo. His name's Keith Futrell. He lives up in Pocahontas. He did a great job his 2 years. Matt Robinson is our local guy there in Jacksonville. He's our state raffle chairman. He's a former past state chairman. He works hard. He works probably the hardest of any of the volunteers in Arkansas for the Ducks. Of course, Corey Dunn. Pat Mahan is our live sponsor chairman. Ty Anderson and Wesley Williams are our regional directors. And all the volunteers, there's way too many to mention. But we appreciate all of our volunteers. And one last thing, April the 14th through the 19th, they're having Mad Mallard Week at Dickey Stevens Park with the Arkansas Travelers.
Yeah.
Ducks Unlimited is one of the sponsors there. And, we do this to gain volunteers and to get kids involved with the Green Wing program, because the kids are our future.
Yeah.
So we do fundraisers there, those 6 games, and we'd love for anybody to come out and see us. We have some ice chest raffles, coolers, guns, we did some trips last year, but we partner with the Travelers, and they kind of rebrand themselves that week. They wear orange or green jerseys and matching hats, and it's a fun time. Last year it was in August, so it was pretty warm. So we're looking forward to May. It'll be a little bit better this year, but that's April 14th through the 19th.
Well, and I tried to hit Wesley up last year because I wanted one of those baseball caps, and he said, "Man, those things are hard to come by," and he wouldn't get me one. But my man did hook me up with my DU chair here. Now, when I say hook up, I still paid for it. I bought this from some banquet. I don't know. Somebody didn't buy it at a banquet, and he sent me a picture of it and said, "Hey, was this a chair you wanted?" I said, "Yeah." And he shot me a price, and I said, "Well, okay, it's for the Ducks." And so I got me a DU chair that I sit here every show. So, but we appreciate Wesley. He's a good guy down here, lives down here around us, and did a really good job with the Ducks Unlimited down here. We go to the banquet every year. It's a great one. And if you ever get down around here, Scott, give us a shout.
Actually, I was at that banquet on that
Were
Thursday
you?
night.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
it was a
yeah.
long drive home to Sheridan.
Yes, it was. It
Yeah,
was a
I bet
long.
it
It
was.
was a long night. I told Wesley if it went that long again, I was out. I was out. I'd come for the meal, but I was out. So, but look, if you're interested in becoming a lifetime member, and this is the perspective to put it in. Scott and I were talking earlier, but I want to say this before we get off here. If you're somebody like me that goes to these banquets and you buy a picture or a gun or a decoy or a bunch of raffle tickets, you think about this over your lifetime, how much money that you're going to spend on some things like that. It accumulates quick, and you can pay that money and become a lifetime member or even do the Feather Society, because you're going to spend that money anyways. If you're like me, maybe not at one time because I don't have it to spend at one time, but you go and buy the stuff and you're going to spend that money. So think about it in the long term. But again, and I know this may not be politically correct, but it's for the Ducks. Whether everybody wants to admit it or not, it's for the Ducks. And we want you to give money to the Ducks. And so if you're interested in becoming a lifetime member or part of the Feather Society, or just want to get involved in your local chapter, go over to, was it ducks.org?
Ducks.org, yes, sir.
Okay, www.ducks.org, and click on Arkansas. You can find any information there you want to, and get a hold of somebody, and they'll point you in the right direction if they're not the right person. So, Scott, we appreciate your time, buddy. And we would always, you're always welcome to come back and chat with us again. And hopefully we could talk Corey into coming on here as well. We'd love to hear more about all this.
I'd love to do this again, guys. Brian and Garrett, I appreciate your time.
Enjoyed it, Scott.
We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, Garrett and I are going to have our final segment of the night, the final flight. And we're going to talk a little bit about how our season's going. So we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back. Jack Frost nipping at your nose.
Oh, watch out. He's singing. He's singing.
Yuletide carols being
God.
sung.
You're running off our listeners. Stop.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas.
He is
We are
in the
just
Christmas mood. He's got his little Christmas cup. He's singing
I'm in the
jingles.
Christmas. I am in the
He's got it
Christmas
going on.
spirit. Merry Christmas, everybody. Just a couple days away from Christmas. And speaking of being in the Christmas spirit, you may have run out of time to get your gifts in by Christmas, but there are some really good people that you need to buy some gifts from, and you can call them Christmas presents, even though by now you'll probably get them the week after Christmas. But on the bottom of our screen, you can see all of our sponsors, and they're not just sponsors for us. They're all good friends to us, and we appreciate all of those people for being involved with the blind. But before we go tonight, we want to give a big shout out to all of them. Lyle Real Estate. That's a really big Christmas present. if anybody's looking to buy me
Andrew,
something,
where's my wife?
she's on
I
here.
think I saw her on there.
If anybody is looking to buy me something for Christmas, I wear a size 300 acres of flooded green timber. I'm just saying. That's my size. I would probably be able to squeeze into 200. But
Yeah.
designated puller, our man Christian Frierson, great friend of ours. He is a great guy. If you haven't seen the designated puller, go over and look at his social media. You need to get one. We've got one. Everybody we've showed it to has gone and bought one. So it speaks for itself. Apex Ammunition. Garrett, what do you think about those?
Can't say enough about them, man. We've been shooting them for 2 years, and
We
they
brag
are
on
awesome.
them every single
awesome.
hunt. Every single hunt,
We do.
something happens, and we brag on our shotgun shells. You don't get to do that a lot. Of course, Shin Gear right in the middle of the screen. I mean, you could buy all kinds of stuff. I know Garrett stays with a full cart, shop a cart online. He buys some of it he doesn't, and some of it he probably buys and doesn't tell Andrea. But nonetheless, and if you're looking for a really good rack for your side-by-side, awesome racks, Alpha Innovations. Make sure you go over and follow them on social media because they are the best rack on the market. They're made here in Arkansas. Everything's products of the made here in the USA. And
They're made
Russell,
for it to last a lifetime. That
that's
thing
right.
is heavy
That's
duty.
right. That's right. Not all racks are created equal.
They
so
are not.
You may be able to buy one for cheaper, and that may be what you want to do, but you're not getting the same quality. And, of course, Stratton Seed Company out of Stuttgart, Arkansas, man, they hook us up, and we get cell cameras and corn and all kinds of stuff from them for deer season. And if you're a farmer or just an avid hunter, no matter what you're hunting, they've got something for you. So go over and check them out. And then, of course, Dirty Duck Coffee, the official coffee of the blind. They just came out. Well, I say just. They came out with them a couple months ago. But the K, are they called K-Cups?
K-Cups.
Is that what they are? K-Cups.
K-Cup. Yeah, the
I've got some in every flavor. A lot of times when you take coffee from, the grounds in the bag and you put them in a K-Cup, you lose a little bit of the flavor. These did not. Those guys worked hard. They didn't release them till they got them just right. And they wanted to make sure they didn't lose any flavor, and I'm telling you, they didn't. Great flavors.
I'm not a big coffee drinker, but sometimes in the duck blind, it hits a little different. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I do. I drink a lot
Dirty
of coffee.
Duck, they do it right.
So I will tell you, it is good coffee. Make sure you get some. But Garrett, before we get off here, man,
I was going to say this
duck
is probably going
season.
to be a short segment.
duck season.
We're talking about our season.
It's being tough right now, man. Why has it got to be so
It
tough
is.
on us?
I don't know. I've told you a lot of times that I've looked back through pictures and stuff, and I've been telling Brian for the last 3 weeks. Listen, December 16th, 17th, 18th. That's the dates.
Well,
And it came and went, and I was
came
wrong.
and went. We're on the 21st, and it still hasn't happened. But
It still hasn't happened.
we're optimistic. We're headed to the Duck Club as soon as we get off here in just a second, and we're going to get after them again tomorrow. And Garrett, it's not looking good, buddy. The weather looks terrible.
I know, but we got to be hunting. It's season. We wait all year. No
We
matter
got
what
60
the weather
days.
is. We got to get out there. We got to.
And we don't have 60 days
I work
left.
too, so that's what I text Brian earlier this week. I was like, man, we missed a lot of pretty sunny days being at work, but we don't get to choose the weather or when we hunt, and so when we get the opportunity, you just got to get out there.
Well, it seems like when we're working, it's sun shining outside, it's cool, the
know.
wind's blowing, and then when we decide we're going to go hunt, the weatherman changes the script on us, and it's cloudy or it's raining, and it's 60 degrees and no wind,
Look,
zero wind.
Weatherman's wrong a lot too, so we
Man.
don't know what we might wake up to in the morning. It might be something totally different than what they've been saying.
I don't know if they'll be that wrong, but nonetheless, Garrett, you got anything before we go?
I got nothing. Everybody just get out there and kill as many as you can.
Shoot them, shoot as many as you can. But look, like we said earlier, Merry Christmas from all of us here at The Blind. We appreciate you for making 2023 a great year for us. We went from strictly live on Facebook and YouTube. We pushed out our podcast version on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you guys are killing it, and we appreciate you for listening to it And we can't say thank you enough for making 2023 a great year for us. And we need you to if you're not listening to the podcast version. We appreciate you for watching on YouTube and Facebook, but go over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. Go to the Blind Waterfowl Podcast. Click the little follow or subscribe button. So then every time we post a new episode, it'll give you a notification. And listen to our episodes. Even if you just listen to half of it because you get tired of hearing us talk. Just listen to it. Help us to grow, and we appreciate it more than you know. But again, everybody have a Merry Christmas. We're going to be back with you for another episode before New Year's. So I'm not going to wish you a Happy New Year's yet, but we were hoping Garrett was going to sing us out. And it doesn't look like he's going to. So,
Ryan, you're the singer, I guess, tonight.
Love on your family. Remember the reason for the season. And we hope you and your family have a very Merry Christmas. And we'll be thinking about you. And we'll see you in a week with the next episode right here on The Blind. Merry Christmas.